feeling strong frustration when you're searching for something you want and you do everything possible to obtain it. But then, when you finally get it or reach it, your connection to it ends and you realize that this thing might be the cause of your end, or maybe the end of others that you care about without realizing it. Poetries and words that have no necessity, I love. Let me introduce myself. I'm a 37-year-old Sunni named Mohammed Saeed, an architect. Financially, I'm fine, thanks to God. I come from a well-off family, owning a villa and a car. Not a luxurious villa, just a nice house, 2 stories like they call it, a twin house, married and settled. Saturday, architecture work started. When I began working with artifacts and antiques, this work attracted me. Illegal work. Not like what you imagine its legal aspect. No, not at all. That's what attracted me to it. I worked in archaeology, yes, as you've heard. I started buying and selling, making considerable profits. I buy anything that falls into my hands, sell it, trade it, and profit from it. I know it's a losing trade. Anyone who sells goods from his country is selling himself. He no longer has any roots to cling to, but I'm never at ease. I feel like I'm doing something wrong, and I'm sure of it. But as soon as I buy something, from the moment I start trading it, nightmares haunt me. I know my end will be dark. One day, during the blackest day, my friend Faraj, who works with me in this business, the nonsense, called me and said, "We call him a broker, just so you know." And he said, "Truth, engineer, we found a complete tomb. Where did you find it, Faraj?" "We found it in Upper Egypt, in a deserted village. You have to come quickly. What's the price you're asking for it?" "The price is very good. Just come, you alone." "All right, Faraj, I'm coming right away." I got in the car and didn't drive much because I'm not far from Upper Egypt. I reached an old abandoned house. I wondered if the owners of the house knew that there was a treasure in their house. What would they do now? I entered the house with Faraj and the workers, and I said, "The owners of the house must know something. It's not the right time. It's not the right time. They don't live here anyway. We'll buy it, and that's it." The one who discovered the tomb was named Abdul Zahir, and Faraj was there with a group of workers. What I understood was that Abdul Zahir was the one who agreed with Faraj. The tomb was in a large courtyard with something like a fountain in the middle, and the house was built in an old antique style. When I asked him about the exact location of the tomb, "We know its location, but we still don't understand what it is." Standing there, counting steps, holding a book in his hand, because in these matters, opening tombs and the like requires reading the signs, as you've heard. Maybe you know you need permission and people to go underground and such things. Don't occupy your mind with it. Count exactly 3 or 4 steps and found them starting to dig. The digging took some time, not a short time at all. The workers were many, and they started digging until they reached a door in the ground, adorned with inscriptions. "Faraj, what's this? This isn't pharaonic. Egypt had other civilizations. Did it have tombs or what, boss?" "Good, a new business opportunity. We'll earn millions. But what's this writing? It's not like any writing we've seen before." Abdul Zahir told the workers to break the door. They started pounding on the door to open it. But as they banged, I heard a woman outside saying, "Don't open the door! Don't open the door! Don't open the door!" She repeated it several times. I went outside to see the source of the sound. I found an elderly woman standing in the street. She was carrying dirt from the ground and putting it on her head. As soon as she saw me, she repeated her phrase, "Don't open the door. Don't open the grave." "What's wrong with you, woman? What are you all doing inside? Stop it immediately. After the long years that sealed it, you're going to open it again? Shame on you, my son. Shame on you. What you're doing to yourselves and to all people, my son." "All right, mother, we won't open it, but can you please explain to me?" Faraj came from inside and said, "Open it, engineer. Come and see." The woman looked at Faraj, grabbed him by his clothes and said, "May God curse you, as you cursed us and cursed that poor man. May God curse you. Leave her, you crazy woman. Go away from here." The woman looked at the ground and walked away, muttering to herself, "Boss, are we going to focus on the treasures or what? I'm telling you, we opened it. Let's forget the talk, shall we? The treasures, the money." "Maybe, Faraj, this woman was going to say something important. She was going to speak to you. Why did you enter like a fool?" "Let it go, boss. Let's not waste time on Abu Zaid's story." The woman spoke, and then she stopped. "Let's leave the money and the content. Let's leave the things. Enough! Enough!" We went with her and went down to the grave. It was dark down there because the door was sealed. We found something like an iron basin, like a bathtub, but made of iron, and there was water in it. Yes, there was water. I don't know how the water is still there until now. Is it filtration or what? When we shone the flashlight on it, it was black, but I don't know if it was because the place was dark or what. I hesitated and thought, what's the story behind this water? How is it still here? And what's this place? We found a box, we opened it, a small wooden box with drawings and strange things in a language I didn't know, and I've never seen before. Inside, there was a small statue. Its head and shape were very strange. I couldn't tell if it was an animal's head or a human's head. It was made of gold, and the body was like mine, tired and made of silver. Can you imagine? My body is tired, and the head is either a human's or an animal's. The features aren't clear. Abdul Zahir lifted the statue and said, "Hold it." I held the statue. It was small but very heavy. We opened it for this. This is what I asked Faraj about. Faraj said, "Boss, this is what you're going to depend on tomorrow. This will bring us millions from the green. You're discovering a new civilization." His words were convincing, so I kept silent. We went up the ladder and came out just before they closed the tomb's door. I heard a voice screaming. I didn't know where it came from. I looked at Farag and said, "Did you hear that? Did you hear?" "What, sir? I didn't hear anything," he replied. After that, I heard a sigh coming from afar. I left them and got into the car. They said to me, "We'll agree on everything." I told them, "Fine, let's agree, but let me go first, and then we'll figure out what to do." I took the statue with me and placed it on the chair next to me in the car. As I drove, I kept talking and saying, "I wonder, will this really make a difference? Is this truly a new civilization that nobody knows about? Surely it has great value. But what is this strange place we found ourselves in? What is the other door next to the iron basin leading to?" I saw it and nobody else did. I didn't ask because I wasn't ready for anything else. Another door in the ground. Where will it take us? I don't know. I don't want to talk. I went home and found my wife, saying that we were very late in celebrating our daughter's birthday, Farah. I told her we could postpone it. "All right, she's waiting for you. Let's do it and don't upset her." I couldn't object or upset them. We did what usually happens on birthdays. We sang, celebrated, and Farah agreed with us. She sang and was very happy. I told her to blow out the candle, and she started blowing out the candle like any child, trying once, twice, until it went out. Without warning, I heard a child scream. I rushed to the prayer room, turned on the light, and found my daughter sitting on the floor, covering her face with her hands. "Farah, what's wrong? What happened?" I found Farah consulting the ceiling. "What are you saying?" My wife comforted her and asked her, "What did you see, my dear?" Her response was, "I saw it." And she kept saying, "I saw it." I continued to ask her what she saw or who she saw consulting the ceiling. By the way, there was nothing strange about the ceiling. Her mother took her in her arms and kept comforting her as much as possible. My phone rang, and I found an unfamiliar number calling. "Who's with me?" "I'm Jaber, sir. I'm Farag's friend. Not a good friend, to be honest. Farag got killed. What? Killed? Come quickly, please. I just left a while ago, sir. I'm telling you, he's been killed. Come now. I went to Farag's house and found an ambulance, police, and clearly, the situation was serious. When I entered, I found the wall had a strange drawing on it, as if someone had drawn with black chalk, not on the wall, making circles and lines, and their color was almost black. The smell was unbearable. It smelled like something was burning. I started looking around at the people and asked, "Where is he? I want to see." The looks of the people around me all meant don't, but I insisted. I wish I hadn't insisted. I wish I hadn't seen him. Let me describe exactly how Farag was. Farag's eyes were wide open, his mouth wide open, and his tongue hanging out. And as his tongue was hanging out, it was black, as if it had been burnt. There were cracks in his tongue, as if it had cracked from being burnt too much. The officer started asking me, "What's your relationship with him? How do you know him?" Many questions, and in the end, he said to me, "We have to take you with us because we need a report from you. We need some data and information. We'll need you to come more than once, by the way." I went, gave my statement, and left. While I was descending the stairs, my phone rang. I found my wife crying, telling me, "The house is filled with strange things. The landline got cut off and the mobile got locked." Can you imagine my state throughout the distance I drove from Farag's house to mine, calling, and the phone being off? When I reached home, I entered like a madman. I found my wife sitting and Farah sleeping on her lap. On the walls of the house were the same black marks that were in Farag's house, drawn with black chalk. I'm afraid my wife will tell me our daughter died. I don't know what's happening. Suddenly, she starts screaming and saying, "They're dead!" repeatedly. Then she keeps crying, and then she sleeps and wakes up crying again. I asked her a lot, "Should we see a doctor? Should we go to the hospital?" Blood came out of her nose once while she was crying. We went to the hospital, but after the examination, there was no definite diagnosis from anyone. I don't know, and I don't understand what she's saying. They put her in a room, and we were sitting with her, hanging ives for her. She started talking, saying things neither her mother, nor I, nor the doctor standing with us could understand. The doctor was looking at both of us as if he was waiting for us to translate what she was saying. It seemed like she had a speech problem. I looked at him and said, "What's wrong with my daughter? Why is she talking like this?" She was fine. My phone rang. I looked. There was no number. Nothing appeared on the screen. I answered. I heard the recorded sentence of the old lady. "May God curse you. May God curse you. Like what happened with us. May God curse you." "Yes, I can hear you, lady. Answer me." The line got cut, and there's no number to call back. But I know the solution now. I'll take the statue and return it to Abdel Zahir. Let him deal with it. Throw it away, burn it, or do whatever he wants with it. Clearly, this is a real curse. I went to my villa, left my wife and daughter in the hospital to get the statue. When I arrived, the villa's lights were all off. The whole street was lit, except the villa. I used my mobile flashlight, and in that moment, I saw something running up the stairs, something short in height. I heard people whispering or talking, but I couldn't understand. I quickly went to the room to take out the statue because I know he's behind all this. I entered my room, found my daughter sitting on the bed, hearing whispers and incomprehensible speech. She was wearing something like a black cloak, sitting on the bed, facing her back to me. But I recognized her from her hair, my daughter's black silky hair, her distinctive feature. By the way, I had just left her in the hospital, and she was still there, suffering. Her face was close to the hair, the same hair I saw on her head from behind. The same hair in front of her head was covered with my hair from all directions, meaning there was no face from the side or front or behind. Next to her on the bed was the cursed statue, sitting quietly, not doing anything. As for me, I don't know what to do. I'm standing, waiting for her to react or do anything. Here is the translated and formatted text. I had a reaction as soon as the statue's shell moved and began to play with it, like a little doll a child plays with. How am I going to take the statue from her? I moved comfortably and told myself, I am the killer, not the victim. This is not my daughter. I'll take the statue. It won't be missed. There was a blanket next to me on the chair, tightly wrapped. I grabbed the tightly wrapped blanket and threw it over her. In the moment I threw the blanket over her, the statue indeed fell from her hand in confusion. I saw her hand under the blanket trying to find it. I reached out calmly and pulled the statue, but she grabbed my hand. I quickly pulled my hand away and pulled the statue harder because I could feel intense heat from the statue, as if I were holding fire in my hands. The heat increased significantly as I pulled it harder and took it out from under the blanket. I found my jacket in front of me. I took it off, wrapped the statue in it, and said, I'll return to the village, or the place where we found this rubbish, by the way. I don't remember if I told you its name or not. They call it the abandoned place. I don't know why. On my way back to return the statue, I noticed strange things. I noticed a lot of dead livestock on the road, which was very alarming. Until I reached the house where the cemetery was, I found the old lady sitting on the steps outside the house. As soon as I saw her, I praised God. I ran to her and said, Thank God I was going to hear you, by the way. May God have mercy on him. He didn't give me a chance. I'll return everything. I'll fix everything. Do you remember what you did? I saw those who died. I saw the livestock that perished. I saw the village burning because of you. You're the one who opened it, and they will kill you. You're digging your own grave. You won't live. You'll die. Everything you did, everything you caused, died, even if you return it. The thing will die. The statue you have is the reason for what's happening to you. And as long as you return it, many things will happen to you and you can't bear them. I burst into tears and began to cry. I didn't know what to do. You're the one who removed it from its place. It didn't need to come out after 40 years. I was here, and the land was filled with good people, people living happily and people living normally and contentedly. Even the crops looked joyful, as if you were sitting in heaven. Life was normal until Shaddad appeared above the cemetery, knowing for sure that there was a cemetery underground here, and the purpose of building the house was because he said it was a pharaonic cemetery. The place he built in is a place no one buys or sells. It was said that it was a cursed place, and people did not approach it. People were living their lives, and the place itself was in the state of its owners. They never offered it for sale until he came and offered an exorbitant amount and continued to boast, saying that he would bring out the treasure that was under the house. Is this really the cemetery under the house, pharaonic or not? Is it a cemetery or something else? Is it soil where a jinn is buried and someone doesn't want it? And if there's a jinn guardian and the man who bought it, what happened to him? He didn't have time to do anything. He didn't think of returning the statue. At first, he resisted, but in the end, he had to return it. After all that, after all the deaths, many people said that the house collapsed or a wall was built around it so that no one would approach it. Some said to demolish the cemetery and build on it, but everyone was afraid until Farid came. Farid Abu Haiba, I was young back then. He said, after we return the statue to its place, everything will return as it was. Shaddad didn't return the statue. He didn't have time to return it. The statue is connected between the earth and the grave. And your father wasn't afraid if he went down to return the statue, something would happen to him. There was no other solution. My father went down, and people stood waiting for him, but no one agreed to go down with him. It was a long time, and my father kept calling them from inside, and he kept calling them loudly, and he told them, "Don't worry, just an hour or two. And then we heard something like me, and everyone screamed and ran out of the house. Everyone said my father died, the deposit is gone. I went down and found my father crawling on his stomach. As soon as he saw me, he asked me to escape. He said, run, Fatima, run, my daughter. He went out like he was dying. I kept telling him, I'll get you out, Dad, I'll get you out. I was just a child. He wouldn't listen. In my mind, what I was saying was great. He kept telling me to get out, before it's too late. I only escaped, Fatima. Escape, my daughter. He's black, my son, and his hair is covered, and he's brave. He's moving towards my father, and I ran away. I want to know the story of this cemetery. What's the story? I told you what I know, and they know that people stopped approaching this place, and this place was abandoned and the house was left, and no one remembers or even knows if he thought about digging and getting his things out. You came. Do you want to get out? I warned you, and you took it out and lost it yourselves, and you lost us with you. The solution, Fatima, go to your Uncle Noah, the oldest man living in the village and the oldest man in age, and he knows all the secrets, and anyone who asks him, he tells him. So go to your Uncle Noah, go to your Uncle Noah. I went with her until we reached the house. I knocked, and a girl of 17 opened. There was someone inside. Who's at the door, Nadia? It's Fatima, and she's with a man. An old man looked at Fatima. She gestured to me and said, shh, shh. We entered and found an old man sleeping on the bed. How are you, Fatima? I'm fine, Hajja. Don't worry, my son. You're fine. No one knows what will happen tomorrow. No one knows who among us will die and who will survive. You might not die before anyone, old man. May God grant you health and a long life, my son. Oh, Uncle Noah, the guest who came from the abandoned place is Shaddad. Uncle Noah. This man's face is like a pen. The girl inside was told to close the windows. What's this cemetery, my son? What did you go digging in it for? Leave, my son, and don't come out with anything. No. How could you not know, Uncle Noah? Let's get online. I know, do you know or not? What I know, my son, is that those who went with you died. The workers you brought with you died. Do you know or not, my son? I don't understand. And Abdal Zahir, what's the difference between him and them, my son? He kept fabricating, and then killed himself. No one is left. Why is there a guardian for the grave? I don't understand anything. Explain it to me. My mind is spinning, Uncle Noah. The whole matter, my son, spins in anyone's mind. No one guessed it. Abd al-Zahir knew the grave and knew everything that happened in it. He was greedy and wasted. Wasted you, wasted us, and wasted the poor people who were there. He wasted the whole country. Look, my son, I'm the last one from a large family that used to exist. This girl isn't my daughter. I adopted her. This grave was built specifically for someone, a descendant of Adam. What does it mean? Specifically for someone, a descendant of Adam. It means, yes, a sorcerer, a corrupter, whom everyone feared and dreaded. As long as he was alive, sacrifices had to be made, 1, 2, 3, and people out of ignorance or fear agreed to what he did. This man was the most deluded of all people. He lived in a house on the mountain and told people that behind this mountain there was an army of guards and jinn, and if anyone dared to approach or harm him, the army would come and devour them. People lived and believed the illusion until someone like you decided to go to the mountain and see what was behind it. He returned to the people and told them that there was nothing behind the mountain, just a mountain with nothing on it. The sorcerer was a liar. He deceived us all our lives, lying to the people that there was nothing behind the mountain. But what happened after that, my son? After killing and plundering and sacrificing many people for his worship of Satan, the people went after him and chased him away. He kept running, pursued from one mountain to another and from one place to another until he stood before them and boldly said, "I have a house underground, built by jinn, right now, and none of you can enter it, and anyone who thinks of approaching me, woe to him. I know that some of you will enter, and each one who enters will be a new victim. But I haven't seen a sorcerer's grave, my son. I haven't seen it." Another door, iron, next to the well where the sorcerer puts the dead for their souls to be drawn. Yes, indeed, there was a door. This is the door, my son. He is the one sitting there. What does it mean? He didn't die, and who knows? Nobody knows. This is a house built by jinn. God only knows what it contains. Death is our right, but we don't know when death will come. But it's certain that on Judgment Day, we'll all be dead. No one will be alive. But how prepared are you, my son? It's God who determines everything. Those who opened the grave didn't surrender. Some said they saw the guardian, and some said they saw the sorcerer himself. As for this statue, it's made by the jinn, half of whom made it, and the other half made by the sorcerer. Ancient things people have been talking about for a long time, and we don't know anything about them because all I know is that the sorcerer and the jinn collaborated and made this statue. What's the use of this statue? This statue is like Aladdin's lamp. Wasn't Aladdin rubbing the lamp to summon the jinn to serve him? This statue is something like that, but it has a whole clan of jinn inside, and maybe even more. The sorcerer had them under his control. I won't tell you it came out like the lamp. It used to come out only to anyone who thought of moving the statue from its place. That means the statue I have, this statue I have, yes, my son, it's full of clans of jinn. Maybe you divorced him. I didn't see anything strange. And my daughter saw, and Faraj saw, and you'll find Abdul Zahir saw, and the workers saw. Imagine, my son, when two powers like this unite, how will the situation be? People used to talk about the statue and say the statue descended from hell, and the sorcerer found it and exploited it. But what I know is that this statue is a great harm, very powerful, my son. No one can take the statue and get away with it unscathed, but I got away unharmed. Where did I get away unharmed? What's the news about your family? What are you doing? Protect yourself how? I don't know what to tell you. Even if you return the statue, everything will return as it was or not. I don't know. Pay attention. The jinn will appear to you once, twice, and 10 times. Run away or surrender, it's up to you. If the sorcerer himself comes to you, he'll tell you what to do. My son, any mirror that comes in front of you, break it. Any mirror you see in front of you, destroy it. Any mirror next to someone you care about, eliminate it. I was praying you would return to the guardian, and he would hand you over to the sorcerer. Take him yourself. But I guarantee you, my son, what will happen to you will be beyond your imagination. He'll tell you that if you do this, you'll protect your family from many disasters. Maybe you'll be the victim, but your family is innocent. I've said my piece and told you everything I can to help you. But one last piece of advice from me, my son, sit down, and I'll advise you and help you. Hopefully, you'll bring your wife and daughter with you here. Do you want me to bring my wife and daughter here with everything that's happening? Are you crazy? Crazy. May God forgive you after all this, and you call me crazy. I will handle it my way, and that's it. Neither my wife, nor my daughter, nor this talk. Thank you. My wife called me and said she saw them. What your daughter is talking about, they're here under our room right now. One looks exactly like her description, and there's something like me, I can't describe it. It was strange. It was outside on the balcony and kept tapping on the window of the room. What are you doing? Get me out of the hospital now. Right now, I'm sitting on the bed, scared to get up, and I'm holding your daughter in my arms. I'm scared to get up. I didn't know what to do. I took the box with me and walked. I kept thinking about what would happen when I got there. Many things would happen. I walked as fast as I could. My wife called again. "Don't go home completely." "I'll go home," meaning I'll go home with my daughter. She'll be lost to me. The call cut off, because I didn't want to wrong her for a moment. The second call came, and I had arrived. The door of the house was open. I entered and called for them, called for my daughter Faraj and for my wife. There was no one in the house at all. "Is it possible?" I heard the words, and for the first time in her life, she decided to do something useful. Is it possible she went to her family? I heard a sound like a line coming from more than one place, and suddenly something caught my attention, a movement that made me look up. I found my daughter Faraj stuck to the ceiling like she was lying on the ceiling, and there was no gravity on the floor, by the way, and her face features were close to my daughter's when I saw her. I ran and kept jumping with my foot on the mirror, on the ground, until I broke it. My daughter continued to crawl on the ceiling like a crawling animal, looking for a place to see her reflection in the mirror. And the same thing, my wife was doing it. She was looking at herself in the mirror and was strongly focused. There was a small mirror on the ground, one of the mirrors in the room, and my daughter's reflection was visible in the mirror on the ground at that moment. I remembered Uncle Noah's words when he told me to break all the mirrors immediately, without delay. I took a heavy object in the house and smashed it into the mirrors, starting with the one in the niche. My wife shouted and convulsed. The chair started shaking with her as if there were motors and electricity in it, because a monster was shaking the chair very quickly. Because there was a beast shaking the chair with her, it seemed like there were motors and electricity in it. I realized that breaking the mirrors weakened her, and she returned again, convulsing on the ground and transforming into the form of my wife that I knew. As for my daughter, my wife's absence was strange. She sat on the chair and kept searching for my daughter, right and left, until she found her sitting in the bathroom, crying. I wondered if this was my daughter, or something else, or a third thing. She returned to her normal self, and I felt hopeful that this curse might go away with just the materials of the statue. I went to my wife and told her, "I'll tell you what, I want you to join me on a journey." Now, I can't say if she remembered what happened or what she said because she asked me where we were going, and I said it's a 3-hour journey. I just arrived from there. My daughter Faraj became very normal, and she asked me again, "Where are we going?" I told her it's a place where we'll play, and you'll ride a horse and run and play. I said I'll take them to Uncle Noah's, as he told me, and I'll go and return the curse. As soon as we entered the village, it looked strange and gloomy, with dead livestock lying on the ground. My wife was shocked by the sight and asked me if this was the place we were coming to for a change of scenery. I couldn't find any other response than saying that we were going to a kind man's house to have a good time there. The music ended, and the conversation between me and her ended. I told her, "I can't stand all this talk, so be quiet." We arrived, and she opened the door. I found him asking her, "Who's inside?" She told him, "The old man and the older one, Daddy." My wife looked at me, surprised, and looked at the girl, not commenting. I entered and met Uncle Noah, and I introduced him to my wife and daughter, and he asked me to take them upstairs and come down. I took them upstairs and went down and asked him, "What are we going to do?" "My son, this sorcerer is like the Antichrist. We don't know how to deal with him. All I know is that if you don't return the statue, I don't know what will happen. So when should I return it, now or tomorrow, my son?" "Stay with your wife," and told her, "I'll tell you what I want you to accompany me on a journey." Right now, I can't say if she remembered what happened or what she said. Because she asked me where we were going, I told her it's a 3-hour trip. I just returned from it. My daughter Faraj became very normal, and she asked me again, "Where are we going?" I told her it's a place where we'll play, ride horses, run, and have fun. I said I'd take them to Uncle Noah's place, as he told me, and then I'll take the curse back. As soon as we entered the village, it looked strange and gloomy, with dead livestock scattered on the ground. My wife was shocked by the sight and asked me if this was the place we were going to enjoy. I couldn't find a response other than telling her we were going to a nice man's place to have a good time. I urged, and reached the end. The conversation between me and her, I told her I couldn't bear it anymore, so she should be silent. When we arrived, I found a man asking her, "Who's with you?" She said, "The old man." "And the oldest," my wife added, surprised, looking at me. She didn't comment on the girl. I entered and met Uncle Noah, introduced him to my wife and daughter, and he asked me to take them upstairs and come down. I took them up and came down, asking him what to do. "My son, this sorcerer acts like the Antichrist. I don't know how to deal with him. All I know is if you don't return the statue, I don't know what will happen. So, my son, bring back the statue. Perhaps things will improve." "All right, Uncle Noah, I've arrived." We reached the abandoned house, where I found someone had written a sign that I hadn't seen before. Warning to the village people, do not approach this place. Death lies within. I entered and found the pit partially filled with debris. I started digging again. I don't know what I'm digging for or what I'll find. I kept digging to reach the door again, but I couldn't find it. I couldn't reach it. Then I heard a voice behind me saying, "What do you want?" I looked back and saw the same figure, with a head full of hair and no facial features, submerged in the hair. "I'm here to return the thing, to restore the trust. I made a mistake. I'm here to return it." He told me that trust must be handed over to its owner, and that he's just a guardian. He admitted that he and others underestimated it. He confessed to failing to guard the trust, and that wrath had befallen him. "Take it and give it to him," he said. "He told me the trust must be handed over by hand. I'm here by your wife and daughter until you take the command to leave." I found the door that I couldn't find before. It opened, revealing stairs, and I descended. I found the statue with me. I walked through a dark corridor, and the light from my phone was trying to dispel the horrible darkness everywhere. The ground was full of things like broken chains and strange drawings on the walls. It wasn't terrifying until the first time. I didn't feel it with this grip. I kept walking in an endless corridor. I searched for the vessel containing the water, but I couldn't find it. I couldn't find anything but a long corridor. I kept walking and walking, never ending. I started saying, "I'm here to return the trust. I'm here and I apologize. I don't want anything. I'm here to return it. I'm tired." I sat on the ground, barely lasted 2 minutes. I found 2 black decaying feet in front of me. I was afraid to raise my head and look up, but I looked and found a mummy, wrapped like the white cloth of mummies. A broken part of the cloth, the teeth protruded from it, and it was out of the socket. One eye wrapped and hidden, and the other eye protruded out, hard, disgusting protrusion. And it's completely black. Shower me with horror. I stood up, trembling with fear, facing a curse from the curses of the mummies. The trust. This is the trust. What? I'm not going to kneel to anyone. This is the trust, and that's it. I heard a voice behind me saying, "Return to our master." The mummy began to move, or the sorcerer in front of me began to make sounds that I heard and remembered strongly. I heard it before, but this time it was coming from my daughter, from the basement or the corridor I was in, without exception. A strong light. I don't know its source. I found 2 coffins, and the guardian started to move, opening the first one, where I found my wife. I screamed, "No!" 3. "And we assure you that the one who prays will have mercy on them." The one behind me said, "Don't worry, sir, only brave hearts are taken." It doesn't take mere humans, nor does it take slaves. He grabbed my head and pressed down for me to kneel. I knelt. There is no God but Allah. I do not elevate anyone other than I am not religious, neither devout nor irreligious. I couldn't disobey our Lord. I continued to read verses from the Quran and scream, saying, "O Lord," and I screamed saying, "O Lord of the mummy." It started and became something akin to a worn-out thing, its head resembling that of an animal, an exact copy of the statue, but alive, running and crawling on the ground. I entered, jumped into a coffin from the coffins that were supposed to contain my wife, and closed it, peeking behind me to see the guard. I didn't find him, but I heard a sound like a door creaking. I knew the door that was creaking was the basement door that closed on me. I opened the box, didn't find the sorcerer or the worn-out one, nor the shape it took, nor did I even find my wife's body. I lifted the statue, threw it in the box, and ran out, ran up the stairs, and kept knocking wildly on the door, calling, "Save me," until I woke up to find myself in the house, not knowing how or who brought me. This is the continuation of what happened, my dear wife. Well, let me introduce myself. I'm the one who's been telling you all this from the beginning. I am the wife. I am the one who is recovering my husband's memories, which I don't know how he got out, and he had written to me that he's done and that this is the last sentence. And then I found another continuation. I don't know how he got out. I don't know. I sat with Uncle Noah after he left, and Uncle Noah told me about catastrophic things. And as soon as my husband returned, Aunt Noah died. The old lady came and said to me, "Your guards, my daughter." The lady he talked about told me, "Your guard, this is not your husband." I really feel like I'm living with someone else, not my husband. I'm sure, but I'm more than willing to make a decision. I'm lost, and my daughter and I are uncomfortable when he sees me teaching my daughter in the hall. He doesn't wake up in the middle of the night, but I find him sitting next to me on the bed, telling me the story all over again. Now it's been a while, and every time I say to him, "What's wrong?" he says to me, "Forgive me." What I faced wasn't easy. I told you exactly what happened, and everything he wrote exactly from the beginning to the end. I read to you his diaries until the last part that I don't understand and can't comprehend how and when he got out. Uncle Noah said to me, "Your husband won't come back. Your husband sacrificed himself because of the sorcerer." Hajja Fatima said to me, "He's not your husband." And I told you what happened, because you are the ones who tell me what to do, to live with him, finish,